pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. She is the Director of Athletics at Alabama State University, Jennifer Lynn Williams. She will join me at about 10:15-ish to discuss Alabama State athletics. It will be the first time having Mrs. Williams on the show, so looking forward to that. Then following Miss Williams will be Coach Van Pettaway, the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst. He'll join me. And then in hour number 2, usual guest Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Here's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. The NCAA APR report is out. A lot of good things, but also a couple of hits within black colleges and non-black colleges. So we'll take a look at the annual NCAA APR report. Also, voluntary athletics activities will be allowed in football and basketball starting June the 1st. So they'll be able to come in and start preparing for the fall season in college athletics. Still a lot of unknowns. This is going to be very interesting to follow and see what happens. But some of you have stated it's too much of a big business. They're going to get it done one way or the other. But as I have stated, profit over safety. Is that what we're looking at? We shall see. Vanderbilt's Candace Lee became the first black female athletic director in SEC history. Congratulations to Candace Lee becoming the first black female AD in SEC history. And also this weekend, ESPNU presents HBCU Day programming. That's this weekend. That's what's trending on today's Carlos Brown Show. As always, let me introduce, I'll say a pleasant good morning to Dr. Michael Prince. Dr. Prince, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How about yourself, sir?
You know what? They say I'm fair to middling, highly and hardly kicking, but I am kicking.
Wow. I like that one.
Yes, sir.
You can make a book. You could produce a book on famous things, cliches.
I try, man. I try. Mother wit is always a good thing to have.
I understand that. Well, the NCAA APR report is out, and of course, I went and looked at the official release, and the first thing that jumps out to you, and I guess that's how news is. I went and looked looked at postseason ineligibility, and of course, when you look in the conference, Alabama A&M, men's basketball, men's track and field, and women's soccer. Alabama State, men's basketball. Coppin State, women's track and field. Delaware State, men's basketball. Grambling State, men's track and field. Howard, football. McNeese State, football. Prairie View A&M, football. Southern, men's cross country, men's track and field. And Stephen F. Austin, baseball, football, and men's basketball. And then, of course, level 1 penalties, Alabama State. We just talked about men's basketball. Bethune-Cookman, men's golf, track and field. South Carolina State women's volleyball. Dr. Prince, this is just overall scores were up. Overall, of course, some hits. A lot of good things I went to look at, of course, because I'm a Southern alum, and looked at their 1-year scores and then their multi-year scores. So improvement across the board, except for men's cross country, and men's track and field. But other than that, it is the sign of the time.
Oh, no doubt about it. It's the sign of the time, and it's also reinforcing the great job that Oldham and staff has done with APR. I almost said NPR. APR 952 was the score for football. And let's be honest, we are concerned about all the sports that we're involved in, but we know what the attention grabbers are going to be, and that's what people measure the overall productivity of the institutions. And we talked about, of course, Prairie View and Alabama A&M, but man, Stephen F. Austin, good gosh. And now everybody's pointing fingers. And of course, the former athletic director, who's no longer there, says, hey, they have to point the finger at somebody. But he laid it out there. He said other areas such as compliance, tutoring, and other avenues that make up this APR team, they had roles to play in it too. And this is one of those situations that when we win a championship, it's we. When we get hit on the hand, it's they. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You got to roll with the punches. Everybody has a collective role, including the student athlete.
Yeah. Well, there's some good things to talk about, and I know if you're a graduate of Jackson State, they've done a tremendous job looking at their scores across the board. You look at Grambling State. No matter what, if you went to Grambling State, Alabama State, across the board, good things have happened. But there's a couple of hiccups. But it'll be interesting to see how the athletic staff, how they will address those hiccups. Because when things are good, they're good, but you'll really find out the true test when you have some hurdles you have to overcome.
No doubt. And the hurdles are part of life. We can't get around the hurdles, brother. And so we might as well prepare for them as best as we can and let it go. Because there are going to be some rainy days and some sunny days. And once again, it's how we deal with all levels. Some may call them attacks, adversities, challenges, but it's how you deal. And as you say, your character is really built on how you respond to tough times, not the good times, but the tough times.
Yeah. So you will have to govern yourselves accordingly. Also, you monitor the NCAA and what they're talking about as far as trying to prepare for college athletics in the fall. Still some uncertainties. They're now allowed to volunteer, and that's what they say, athletic activities allowed in football and basketball, starting June the 1st. And now you're starting to see the commissioners of the various conferences starting to speak out or setting the date where they're going to return. But it is going to be interesting. I still ask people if, and it's still some unknowns, but if you are allowed to participate or attend an activity in the fall, are you going to go? If they're going to have fans that you still don't know yet. And it's kind of interesting, some of the answers I've been getting back from just different individuals I've talked to. Are they comfortable enough to attend an event? That is the big question. Are you comfortable? Can you go to an event? So it's going to be interesting. And you can only speak for yourselves, but most of the people that I've asked that to and talk to, they have big concerns, whether they have a compromised immune system or not.
Oh, no doubt.
They
No doubt.
just don't feel comfortable right now.
No doubt. And I had someone tell me this. Even if you don't consider yourself political, everyone is involved in politics. It's just a matter of how deep you decide to go. And with that being said, it is a political move for whether you're on Republican, Democrat, or Independent side. It's a move that Republicans are in favor of, Democrats are against, Independents or pick a coin, flip a coin. And when the dust settles, health, and we've been saying it for quite some time now, safety over profit. Safety over profit. And this is only being pushed because if the truth be told, and Dr. Charles McClellan was quoted in an article this week that we're moved, and I've been saying it all along, we're moved by seats and ticket sales. We don't have the TV deals. So it would be more detrimental for us to try to jump in the pool just because everybody else jumped in the pool. The FCS, not the FCS, but the FBS are pushing extremely hard because this is what they want, because they have these TV deals that are lingering out there where each school in a conference getting $35 million, in some cases minimal. And we don't have $35 million collectively in 10 years as a conference and a TV deal. So there's comparing apples to oranges.
Yeah, well, you have to govern yourselves accordingly. And we shall see how this situation unfolds. Very shortly, it's going to be June 1st. Then it's going to be July. Then it's going to be August. Coach Fobbs, in an article, the Monroe News Star, said that things have to be in place for his program June 1st. And they need more time to get ready, prepare for a football season. And then you still have a lot of questions. Get them back on campus. It's going to have to be a lot of testing done. Who's going to be responsible for that testing? The cost of it? I'm going to say it's going to be the institutions. So we'll take a quick break on this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is SWACalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's first guest is my first time visiting with the Director of Athletics at Alabama State University, none other than Jennifer Lynn Williams. Mrs. Williams, good morning to you and welcome to the Carlos Brown Show.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me join you today.
Well, we appreciate the time on a beautiful weekend in this great state of Louisiana and the state of Alabama. And once again, we appreciate the time. You've been a busy person in spite of this pandemic that's going on. You hired a men's basketball coach, and Mo Williams. Talk about, if you can, that process of hiring Mo Williams, men's basketball coach at Alabama State University.
Yeah, so, what we've kind of been saying is that the pandemic can't slow us down and it has to continue to get the work done. So we did conduct a major hire for our program and our head men's basketball coach over or during the pandemic. And the process was, it was an intense process. It was heightened even more just because you were conducting it during the coronavirus pandemic, which made things, I wouldn't necessarily say challenging, but it changed the way you operated in terms of the methods in which you conduct an interview. So everything was done completely virtually. There was no in-person interaction, no on-campus visits. We hosted about 3 rounds of interviews and conducted everything within a month time frame from when we first kind of put it out there that we were hiring to making that final decision, but had a virtual video recorded of our facilities to give kind of that the candidate an understanding of what it would be like to be on the campus of Alabama State, specifically looking at the basketball facilities. But we had over 80 plus applicants apply for the position, some very qualified individuals ranging from your Power 5 all the way down to your NAIA JUCO level in high school. So very diverse candidate pool. But Coach Mo Williams, he just stood atop the list when we looked at everything as a committee we wanted in our next men's basketball coach. So it was a unanimous decision amongst the search committee. And we're just super excited about the Mo Williams era and just some energy back into that program.
Visiting with Jennifer Lynn Williams, Director of Athletics at Alabama State University. You mentioned in the press release, he being Mo Williams, he checked off every box that you guys were looking for in the coach. Could you give us one or two of those criteria you were looking for and that he met?
Yeah, we were looking for someone who had a winning pedigree. If you look at Mo Williams' resume, he's won on every level that he's participated in. And that was a key factor. We wanted a champion. We wanted someone to be able to teach our men about how to win and the importance of being a champion. And he knew that and had won on the highest level. We also wanted someone who would be a mentor of men. And when you look at Mo Williams and when you look at why he got into coaching and what it meant for him to be able to mentor and give back, that was what we wanted. While we love championships at Alabama State, it's even more importantly for our student athletes to go out into the world and to be successful and to be able to contribute positively to society. So that was what we was looking for as well. And then someone who had connections, someone who understood the SWAC landscape, the footprint of our conference, as well as the Southeast, but also had ties across the country. And again, when you looked at Coach Mo Williams, he had exactly that. So those were a few of the criteria that we had in there. But again, he checked off every box when we looked at it from head to toe in terms of fit with Alabama State, the staff that I'm developing here in our department. He was just the perfect fit for us.
Ms. Williams, speaking of the success, and you mentioned it, of Alabama State's athletic program, unless you've just been out of cognito, you haven't been in the mainstream, you know the success that Alabama State athletic program has had and is continuing to have. What would you contribute the overall success of the athletic department to? Is it a fine staff? Is it the commitment from the university? Are those some of the commitments that has made this athletic program outstanding?
Yeah, Carlos, I think you nailed it. It's really a combination of a few things. I think ultimately it's having the right people who understand and will buy into the vision. Fit is everything. And when we look at, our coaches and our staff, they have to be winners and they have to be champions. And all of our staff, they want to win and they want to see our student athletes succeed. And they understand the mission and the vision of the institution, which goes hand in hand with our vision as a department. But then it's the student athletes. We work to recruit a certain type of student athlete. We want people who've had success, who understand the importance of winning not only in their sport, but in their classroom. But then the support from our institution. At a lot of HBCUs and limited resource institutions, athletic departments can't get it done by themselves. We rely on a lot of university partners to help us be successful. So, those relationships that we have with our cross-campus partners, as well as them wanting to see us succeed, because when athletics win, the entire university wins. It's been proven case studies about it. Athletics is the front porch of any institution. And so when your athletic department does well, you're going to automatically get press and PR towards your institution. And so it's a win-win situation. And our institution, our leadership, our president, he gets that 100%.
And Ms. Williams, I would believe that those commissioner cups and wow, it's been successful. That's something I guess you could brag about just a little bit. Don't you wear that as a badge of pride when you're out in the public?
I do. Again, winning, it's a wonderful thing to win, and which is why we work to recruit people with winning attitudes. And, winning 6 consecutive Commissioner Cups is a huge feat, regardless of what level you at. Some people don't get to win one championship. So to be able to win 10, 8, 9 championships in a year, to me, it's a tremendous effort. And we thank our student athletes. We show them, in everything we do, as well as our coaches, that their efforts have not gone unnoticed. We appreciate everything that they do for our department and our institution. And we want to continue our dominance. We want, we're going for that next Commissioner's Cup when we can compete a full academic year so that it can be given out. But our goal is to get 7. Right now, we're tied with Southern for the most SWAC Commissioner Cups won. We're at 6 apiece, so we want to break the tie. And, I love my Southern. I tell people all the time, I love my colleagues at Southern. But again, we want to definitely break that tie going into this 2020-2021 academic year. And so that's our goal.
Interesting. I'm a Southern grad. That's why I'm smiling.
No, Roman, I said we coming for him. We coming for you, Lady Banks.
I understand that, and some wise guys say records are meant to be broken. Okay, I'd like to know who that guy is. But anyway, I'm visiting with Jennifer Lynn Williams, Director of Athletics at Alabama State University. Your staff, talk about what they mean to you personally and to the athletic department in the university.
Yeah, I'm a former basketball player, so I really believe in the importance of team. And there's no I in team. Not to sound cliche, but I wholeheartly believe that. And so I couldn't do the things that I do as the director of athletics without my team. And I think that I know that we have an all-star team in the folks that I've hired and that are currently on staff. I have an amazing deputy athletic director in Terrence Jones, my SWA senior associate for internal, Ms. Shay Terrell. This is her second stint at Alabama State. She's phenomenal. Our compliance office, and Ms. Jacqueline Freeman, her staff, very diverse in her skill set, having worked at the Power Five all the way to D2. So, we're putting together what I like to call a rock star dream team staff. My sports information, they're the hardest working SID team, I'm going to say, in America. They find a way to get it done with less resources. When you look at a lot of departments, we sponsor 18 sports. We only have 2 full-time people in our communications department. And so for them to really be able to market and get our brand out there and to tap into some of the national and local networks to get Alabama State heard and seen, it's just been remarkable to watch everything come together. I came into Alabama State as the deputy athletic director, and through some changes in leadership was elevated to interim and served in that capacity for a year. So I haven't completed my second year as the AD, but I'm approaching that anniversary in October. But to see how things have changed from start to now coming into finish with me leading, it's been amazing. When you can recruit people from all over, at HBCUs, there's nothing wrong with it. Sometimes we have a tendency to kind of reshuffle people through our type of institution. So to be able to get folks that, come from Baylor, I just hired an academic advisor from Baylor, to be able to come from a Division II school out west and just some other avenues, but who understand the culture and the importance of the HBCU landscape is extremely important to me because, for undergrad, I went to a PWI, but I went to an HBCU for grad school, and I love the experience that I had at my grad school at North Carolina Central. And it's something that just fueled my fire to want to work at historically Black colleges and universities because there's extreme value in going to an HBCU. And I think we are seeing that more and more today than when I was in school. But, or it's being broadcasted more. We knew when we were in school the importance, but now it's, with social media, people are putting out the whys and the importance of HBCU. So my staff is phenomenal. We're continuing to build. They're hungry. They want to get better. The folks who have been at Alabama State, who are graduates, who are on my staff, they've been tremendous mentors and kind of talking through some of the younger staff who may not be familiar with ASU about the Hornet Way. And so it's a great mix. And I couldn't do it without my team.
Speaking with Jennifer Lynn Williams, the Director of Athletics at Alabama State. Ms. Williams, it has been a great run so far, listening to you, being the interim and then moving up, making your way. You've worked at North Carolina Central, and I see North Carolina A&T on your bio. Now, APR, that just came out, and for the most part, scores have improved overall. Institutions in the conference, although there were some hiccups as far as, with some of the programs. Alabama State men's basketball in the penalty phase, ineligible. How will you and your staff address that latest information, or have you already begun to do that? And did you know about this report was coming out and you had already made preparations to address it?
Yeah, for APR, and I've seen a lot of comments out there, and just to kind of educate folks, is that APR, it's just not based off of this year. It's a 4-year cycle. It's like your tax return, always a year behind. So in looking at our men's basketball program, starting, I want to say, with the 13-14 cohort, there had started to be some declines. And again, this was before a lot of the folks that we currently have in place, but we're about solutions at Alabama State, and we've already come up with a game plan. We have some very strong relationships with the NCAA, and we've had our plan approved. It was approved actually last year in regards to an improvement plan for that program. And so we're trending in the right direction. We've developed a committee that consists of folks from compliance, from the registrar's office, from academics. Our faculty athletic rep is a part of that. But it goes back to making sure that when you're recruiting student athletes, that they understand that your academics is going to be at the forefront of everything you do. So, and it is up to, it's a team effort, but, your coach has to really be involved in making sure that the student athletes understand that academics is non-negotiable. And so we've definitely put in a plan, and we're excited about our team and what we're going to accomplish in terms of how we move forward. When we look at just the score from this year that we record, it was already up 20-something points than where we were. So we're trending up. Our goal is definitely to not be on postseason for the next year, but we have to, get some things done in the classroom, and we have to show that gradual improvement. But unfortunately, this is something that a lot of HBCUs face. So when you look at resources and staffing, change and turnover in staffing. So I when people like to point the finger, and it's a lot of factors that goes in APR. And you have to have a group of people who understand how it's determined, what it takes to improve and implement that plan. And we have already started with our implementation phase. This was something that, we didn't just find out when we opened the news last week. We were planning and preparing, and we were transparent with it about, when we had people interviewing, we were very transparent. So this wasn't something that was a shock to anyone that is close to our program who would need to know. So we're prepared to move forward. And again, we talk about the negatives, but we also had 2 teams in our bowling program and in tennis that scored 1,000. And, we're in the top 10%, as well as other active sport too. We're trending in the right direction. So we hate that this happened. More importantly, I hate it for our student athletes because it's part of the student athlete experience. But you change kind of what your goals are for this upcoming year. And so now, that we know that we can't go postseason, let's talk about winning that regular season and what that looks like, because we'll still provide rings and celebrate that, because that's an accomplishment. And let's talk about increasing the APR score and having a very high GPA. So there are goals that we're putting forth for our program that we're gonna trend up in the right direction. And we hate to have it happen. It has been a reality amongst a lot of HBCUs, not just in our conference, but in other conferences. But we're going to be all right. We're going to bounce back from this. What I told our team when we talked to them, as well as the coaches, is that tough times don't last, tough people do. And we have a very tough team. We are mentally tough as a department, and we're going to be fine.
Visiting with Jennifer Lynn Williams, the Director of Athletics at Alabama State. Ms. Williams, it could be worse. Could be Stephen F. Austin. That was
Stephen F.
shocking. I mean, shocking. Football, basketball, and baseball. I mean, so your response to my question, I believe you.
Yeah.
You got a fan here.
Thank you. And to have it happen, at a school, I'm not familiar with the landscape as Stephen F. Austin, but that's not an HBCU. I do think when you look at PWIs, because a lot of times it's magnified at our institutions. There have been other institutions, non-HBCUs, that have been penalized for APR, but it's always blown up when it's an HBCU. So there's a disparity there when we talk about telling our narrative. But as long as you have a plan and you don't continue to see a downward spiral, I know in our case, a lot of it had to do with turnover. And the lack of resources in certain areas. And, when I became the athletic director, it was my goal to beef up our compliance office and our academic staff. You cannot operate with having 1 or 2 full-time people in academics or compliance. That's just you're going to set yourself up for failure. So now, we have staffed up. We're, again, excited about how we're moving forward. We don't want to be, it's unfortunate what's happening at Stephen F. Austin, but that's something I shared that article with my staff. We don't want that to happen. We don't want to make that type of headline.
I definitely understand that. And being a director of athletics, you got to love it. It's some great days, some good things happen. Then you have things that, you have hurdles to get over. Now, and that leads me into to this, Ms. Williams. I've had several director of athletics on the show from within the conference. And this pandemic and the unknowns, the uncertainties about this fall, Alabama State's plan for athletics in the fall with this COVID-19, health experts, guidelines, preparing the facilities. Where is Alabama State in their planning for the unknown, the pandemic, for fall athletics?
But I like to say,
I know that was a tough one. I know, I understand.
No, is that our plan is forever changing, and I think that my staff can tell you that, the words that I use constant when we're talking in our Zoom meetings and on the phone is to have patience and to be flexible. Because at the end of the day, we go with the tune of the state and then also what our institution guidelines are. We have not yet determined how we're coming back in the fall right now for the summer. We are completely all online, so the campus is closed. And I serve on NCAA D1 Council, and so, in terms of how we voted to allow for student athletes, and now it's for all student athletes to be able to come back to campus if they're local to work out on in your facilities. I don't foresee that happening at Alabama State. We are still closed to the public, with us going strictly online starting Tuesday after Memorial Day. We are in the process of implementing and starting that phase of where we, with our sanitation stations, our markers of the 6 feet distancing and signage for that. So it's a huge plan that not only involves athletics. Athletics is one piece that I worry about, but it's a university-wide plan.
Right.
So there's been lots of conversations with our facility staff, our public safety, our cabinet, the president. We talk every day, 30 minutes, just checking in with each other. I know this week coming up, we're really going to be tasked with what direction we're going to go out. So I'm hoping that we have an answer in terms of what the fall looks like for the university. But I have plans for either way. I know just what I've been telling my staff. I do feel as if our fall is going to happen, but it's going to look different. I think that it's going to look a lot different than what we're used to a football game looking like. What I kind of focus on is the numbers. Our stadium holds 27,500. Those numbers are probably going to be cut in half in terms of who can have access to come in. Testing. I would love for my student athletes to be tested, before contest, after contest. So that could look like twice a week, looking and talking to our insurance provider to see if that's something that we can be afforded, and then implementing it in terms of our doctors and everything. So there's a lot of, we're looking at a lot of scenarios. Again, it's making the priority is always going to be to create an environment where your student athletes, your coaches, your staff, your fans are as safe as possible. Because, what I'm hearing and seeing on different sites, a lot of people don't feel safe coming back. When you look at HBCUs, minorities are being affected by COVID-19 at a lot higher rate than non-minorities. And so to put our fans in danger, a lot of them may sit this one out. So really making sure that your technology and your Wi-Fi and your internet infrastructure is together, that's going to be key for us. I'm telling people and some of our seasoned Hornets is that we're going to have to train you all about online, because you're not going to just be able to show up. It's going to have to be an online component. We're going to be using our computers a lot, our phones, our tablets. So what does that training look like? Transactions. Even with the sale of our football season tickets, we've gone pretty much all online. We're taking some calls over the phone, but we're not doing any in-person interaction. So really the training piece and educating people and that technology and making sure you have a strong infrastructure with your technology is going to be huge for a lot of our institutions.
Visiting with Jennifer Lynn Williams, and I have appreciated the time she's given me on the Coles Brown Show. And Ms. Williams, a question from a listener, all the way from Houston, Texas. He says, ask Mrs. Williams has any thoughts on Candace Lee Vanderbilt's new AD.
Yeah, that's major. I don't know Candace personally, but I have followed her from afar in the industry. She played at Vanderbilt, former basketball student athlete, so I'm always going to cheer for former Hoopers, and has been a part of that program for 20 years as a student athlete and as an administrator. So it makes sense. And I know Candace has been in a lot of NCAA programming about leadership, and she's ready. I think the interim was just kind of the test run. She probably went in there and crushed it. I know people who know her, and I can only imagine that she did a great job during that interim time. I think it's tremendous. I think having representation on the Power 5 level for women of color is something remarkable. It shows that we can lead at a high level. I'm rooting for Candace. I know that she has a strong network of people, and she has a network of people at Vanderbilt that want to see her succeed. That's her alma mater. And so if anyone understands Vanderbilt, it's to me going to be someone who's been there pretty much half their life. So I'm excited for Candace. I think it shows you that women can lead. It's another example because we've been doing it, but I think that when you get on the Power 5, it's just more exposure. But I know she's going to do a tremendous job. She's already been doing the job, and it's going to carry on. And just having people who want to see you successful is half the battle. And so I'm excited for her. It gives young girls and women and men, it motivates them to know that, hey, you have options. It's just really looking at what fits for you and what you enjoy. So if you want to be a Power 5 AD, hey, you can look at Candace at Vanderbilt. You can look at Carla at Virginia. You can look at Martin at UCLA. We can go all the way down. So we're starting to break those barriers. We're going to continue to do it. This to me is just the beginning. But I'm super excited when I saw the news. It did not shock me. I was just glad that it had been finalized.
I appreciate those comments, and a former basketball player like yourself. Who would win one-on-one right now?
So I didn't play against Candace. So Candace graduated. I think Candace graduated the year I came into college. We did play Vanderbilt my junior year, and we lost to Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. They hosted it. So we lost in the Sweet 16 to them. But I think Candace, me and her may be the same height. I don't know. It would be a battle. I'm retired. I'm not in the post anymore. I tell people if they want to get me on the court, it's going to just have to be jump shots. I'm too old to be down in the post.
No, you got it. You'll still be out.
No. I can't explain to my boss why I'm in here in a cast, limping, with gym shoes on instead of heels. That's going to be a hard story to tell, but no.
I understand. Last but not least, very interesting. I consider you a social media star. You know why? Because I was looking on Twitter and I saw all of the women in athletics. I put it that way, and you did the video on Twitter, and I just, I smiled for one. Then the second thing I said, they're all beautiful, they're all important, and with social media, it's so important now. Getting out your message, your brand, and in athletics. It was outstanding to see that. And who came up with that idea?
So it was kind of a combination. I know that I thought I was one of the folks, and then Natasha Wilson, who's at Central Methodist. She used to be at Johnson C. Smith for a really long time. Now the vice president for athletics out at Central Methodist. We kind of just, she reached out to me, and I'm like, okay, well, I have a trio of women who are ADs who I think would do it. And then she had a group. And so we kind of brought it together. I reached out We collectively kind of selected people who we thought would be able to turn it around in a quick amount of time, because this wasn't something we planned over a month or a week. It really kind of came together in 2 to 3 days. And so with the editing and everything. So it was a team effort. And, I think the video kind of showed each of our personalities. While that's not all the female ADs of color, we again just kind of went with who we knew in our network that would want to do it, because not everyone's comfortable. That's not everyone's personality. So, and like I said, most of the people we reached out to, they were in and they were able to turn the videos around in a day. I was able to work with my a gentleman I used to edit video, and he was able to cut it, and we got it done. And it's gotten a lot of positive feedback from just all types of, not just African American men and women, all people who just were inspired to see us kind of put that out there. The Don't Rush Challenge had been something that had been going on for a while, and we kind of jumped in on the middle wave of it, and it was fun. Like I said, I think that all of our personalities were really represented in that video. So we might have some more videos in the works. We'll see.
Well, I'm going to clap. I'm a fan of it. Outstanding job. And Ms. Williams, appreciate the time on the weekend. I'm sure it's always something to do as far as athletics, but we look forward to talking with you again. And as I'm looking at your bio up on the computer, 6 consecutive Southwest Athletic Conference Commissioner Cups, tied and trying to break that record, right?
Yeah.
Better to Alabama State than Jackson State, perhaps, or something to that effect. But enjoy the rest of your weekend, and let's talk again real soon.
Yeah, same to you, Carlos. Thank you for having me on your show this morning.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That was Jennifer Lynn Williams, Director of Athletics at Alabama State. Enjoyed talking with her. First time having her on Coles Brown Show. Doing an outstanding job. Talked about her staff as a team. Also addressed the hiring of Mo Williams, which we do have some sound of his virtual press conference that we'll get to shortly. Also talked about the success of overall success of Alabama State athletic program. Addressed the men's basketball team falling short on their scores on a rolling multiple year scores, and she explained that situation. Also the plan that they've already put in place to address that. So, with that being said, I'm going to take a quick time out. When I come back, shall I talk to A, Dr. Prince again? B, shall I talk to Coach Van Pettaway? What shall I do? And by the way, enjoy your Memorial Day that's coming up shortly, very shortly. So, take a quick time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and many, many more. And we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
Chris, can you put the video game controller down for a second?
I can talk and play. Oh, I'm totally annihilating this punk kid in Nebraska.
I just feel like you're not acting like a grown-up in our relationship.
Am too.
Well, you still ride your skateboard to work, there's the comic book collection, the race car bed.
Look, I'm young at heart. but I put money into my 401k every paycheck. I picked up a few savings tips at feedthepig.org. I have control of my financial life now, and that feels pretty grown up.
Put away a few bucks, feel like $1,000,000. Putting some money from every paycheck into a savings account or contributing to your 401k can make a big difference later. For free ideas and easy tips on ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. That's feedthepig.org.
So, I bet I look like a grown-up to you now.
Well, except for the footy pajamas, I'd have to agree.
This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
First off, I want to go without leaving anyone out. President Ross, I want to thank him. I want to thank A.D. Williams and her staff, the committee, board of directors, and everyone else that was involved with making this decision. Everything that I've set out to do in my life and goals, I always try to achieve it at a high level. I'm excited to be a part of the Hornet Nation.
Solomon with Alabama News Network. First question, how did Alabama State come onto your radar, and were you necessarily targeting states that you had ties with or that you had played ball in the past?
Well, absolutely. Alabama State, it was very interesting job for me. Obviously, I'm a young coach, and I want to give it a start and want to get in head coaching. It was an opportunity somewhere where I'm very comfortable. I have a lot of connections. I have ties down there. My family is from Mobile. My mom was born and raised. My dad is from Mississippi. I went to the University of Alabama. I just thought it was a great fit on both sides. They're getting a young, hungry coach that wants to be successful. It's vice versa. Coming from the university, they have high hopes. They want to bring that program back to prominence, and I'm that guy.
Hello, Coach Andre Terrell with the Montgomery Advertiser. Just as far as film views of Coach Jackson, who's here for 15 years and plays college ball here, and someone that had an extended tenure and relationship with the university, what is the approach for you coming in and kind of establishing a new culture identity for your team, considering the history of who was there before?
Well, I'm a guy that lives in the present. The past is the past. Those guys did a great job. 15 years, that's a long time. 16 years before that. I'm stepping in this game just bringing what I bring to the table, my culture, my kind of type of guys, and the overall goal is to be successful. Recruit great kids, both on and off the court. That's for one. And turn these kids into men, mentor them, be someone in their life where they can look up to, show them the way. And my overall goal is to make sure these kids graduate and become something in life.
Welcome to the SWAC Coach, James Red with SWAC TV. And just had a question about your upbringing. You spent your high school days in Jackson. How important was the SWAC in influencing you that college was an option, and the style of play that you saw as a kid going to SWAC games?
That's a great question. My family is SWAC, all SWAC. My mom, SWAC, my dad, SWAC, my older sister, SWAC, my little brother, SWAC. I mean, it's a family tradition, going to football games, going to basketball games. I mean, it's in my blood, so that aspect of it is familiar to me. No shock, anything. I was prepared. I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm excited to go to the football game. I'm excited to go to the basketball games, track, and all the sports. I mean, it's something that I enjoy. I did it as a kid, grew up around it. I always bragged about it, even when I was at other places, even professionally, always talking about you don't have an experience until you go to the HBCU football game, the halftime show, all those types of memories that I do have as a kid growing up in Jackson around HBCU. And my dad, he don't miss a game to this day. He's always around. So he's excited. My family's excited. So it's excitement going all the way around.
Let you hear a little bit of, or you heard a little bit of Mo Williams' introductory press conference at Alabama State. And now I'm joined by the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst, Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Carlos and Dr. Brown. I'm happy to be here.
Oh,
Dr. Prince, Dr. Prince.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I gave him another name, Dr. Prince.
Yeah, it's all right, Coach. See, you can call me other names. It's his other rascal can't call me them names, Coach. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, I've been called Coach before, but never Doctor.
Okay.
I can't take that name. But I understand. How are you doing, Coach?
Oh, I'm doing fine, man. I'm, just enjoying life and trying to get a grip on all the new happenings in athletics. With everybody being most of the people being allowed to be cleared by the NC2A to come back on campuses. So it's going to be interesting.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question, like I asked Charles Edmond last week, but I'll get to it before the segment's over with. Of course, you mentioned it, the voluntary athletics activities allowed, football and basketball, starting June the 1st. I know, Coach, I saw the Pac-12 commissioner, SEC commissioner on, and they were talking about what that meant as far as from their perspective. Also, Vanderbilt's Candace Lee.
Oh, yes.
Becomes the first black female AD in SEC history. You can give us some the story behind the story of her and the family.
Yeah, I know her family well. Her father was in school. He's an Alabama A&M graduate. He's a fine person. I've been knowing him since the mid '70s when he was at Alabama A&M. He had a military career, probably one of the tallest guys to ever come through the military. But it's a great family, and I got a chance to see Candace when she was, a little infant, and then of course I saw her play at Bob Jones High School. So when she was an athlete in school, and I remember when she accepted a scholarship to Vanderbilt to play up there. So she comes from a great family. She's a great person, and she's grown from a little young baby into a woman who's making history now, being the first African American female to lead a program at in the SEC. But see, my thing goes further than that. A lot of people don't know this, but Tamika Smith, she was a guard at Alabama A&M. She has been the athletic director out at University of California, Riverside since around 2016. Tamika was a guard that could do it all. She's from the state of Georgia. She's out of Atlanta. She played for Press Parham at Alabama A&M, so she's an Alabama A&M graduate, and she has been one of the leading females athletic directors in the country for quite some time. She started her athletic career, athletic director career at Clark Atlanta. She was the AD there for many years before she took over out at UC Riverside. So, I'm just fortunate to have come around and come in contact with some outstanding people, and I'm really proud of them, especially those who are females and are doing things the right way.
Yeah, wherever there's good news, and people that are qualified,
right?
And sometimes we don't emphasize that enough, but they are qualified, given the opportunity, and taking advantage of it.
Right,
and that's a key thing about the whole situation. So, that's outstanding, Coach. We also had some somewhat not good news as far as some postseason in eligibility, as far as some of the different programs. Just had Ms. Williams on, the director of athletics at Alabama State. She addressed the men's basketball situation at Alabama State. Also, Alabama A&M, men's basketball, men's track and field, and women's soccer.
Right.
But
I think Carlos, one of the things the public has to know, it's dealing with academics, but also retention. Retention is a component of that APR, and what that means is, are you retaining the athletes from year to year? In other words, see, with this transfer portal, that's hurting some of these schools because the kids are leaving, and I think the NC2A is they're now seeing that they've got to add a part to that where the athlete can only transfer if they don't cause a penalty for the school that they're leaving. See, I'll give you an example. I can make it personal. My last year, prior to my last year at Alabama A&M, we brought in 6 freshmen. Then they announced that they gave me a 1-year extension. All right, that's the kiss of death. So you know what those freshmen decided to do? They didn't want to come back.
They left.
They did not want. They wanted to transfer because they came there to play for me, and they didn't know who the next coach was going to be. So out of 6 people, 4 of them decided to transfer. Well, that's going to hurt your APR because all of them did not have what they needed they were still eligible at Alabama A&M, but they were not eligible to really transfer without affecting the APR because A&M would be losing a retention point, which is 1. They would lose 1 point for retention. So when those kids left, they transferred to JUCOs. That hurt them. They lost 2 of their 4 retention points right there. So the public doesn't really know that it's not just their grades. Yeah, they want you to be eligible. To get a point, you got to come back, number 1. Number 2, you had to be eligible for that semester. So a lot of times we don't get the clear picture when they say there's an APR issue. And then the other thing that we have to understand, and I've said this many times, is more to athletics than just playing the game. In other words, we as coaches, we can't control the academic people. You can't control the counselors, compliance. See, all of these people make up that APR, and it's out of the coach's hands. When I first started coaching, I was their academic counselor. By me saying that, I had a file on every basketball player. I kept up. He had his class schedule in there. As a coach, back in the 80s, I used to be able to go to the classroom just to make sure that the kid was there. All I would do is go up to the door and peep in because John is supposed to be in his math class. I want to see if he's in his math class, if he's is he sitting where he needs to sit, and that kind of thing. Well, later on, the NC2A says, no, you can't do that. Coaches can't do that. Because I guess at the bigger schools, that was an intimidation factor for the faculty member. But on our level, to me, that was just keeping up with my kids and making sure that they were where they were supposed to be, and that kid knew that, hey, man, this coach not playing. I got to go to class. I got to do what I need to do. So, see, we were working on APR back in the 80s, but now you can't check like that. There's somebody else on campus that's their responsibility. Well, if you rely on some of them people, you may find out when it's too late that Johnny has not been going to class. So it's a tough situation in athletics, man. And I just hate. I looked at the report. You only have 2 non-HBCU schools on there. I think it's Stephen F. Austin, who I had an opportunity to play, and then, of course, McNeese. Now Stephen F. Austin, they got a bunch of issues now because when you read into detail, they've miscertified 82 different athletes over a bunch of sports. Yeah. So that's a little different. And do I feel sorry for them? No, because they got the money. They're one of the smaller schools that has enough money to do whatever they need to do for those athletes. So now, me personally, this is just Van Pettaway, I don't feel sorry for them. But now, for some of our HBCUs, right, we don't have the personnel, nor do we have the money to actually do the job that some of those schools need to do. And that's just a fact, man. That's a fact of life. We don't have the money. And then it leads us up to how this pandemic is going along. Yeah, they've opened the door for us to come back, but is it going to be safe? Well, because we don't have the resources.
Yeah, because just from my research and just talking to people, the the testing.
Yep.
That cost. The university is going to have to do that. And Ms. Williams was talking about under they have to look at under their insurance. And, universities have insurance on student athletes.
Right.
But the pandemic, that's a different story, I believe. And I'm still trying to get my attorney to come on. Somebody, any attorney out there, if you want to come on and kind of break it down in layman's terms about the liability issues, it's a lot of unknowns.
Right, Carlos, but let me ask you this. I mean, look at this, though. Think about this. That's going to be an extra expense just for sanitation. Yeah, I mean, you think about all the different things that have to be sanitized. That was not in any school's budget. That was not in the HBCU's budget. Anybody. They didn't have that. Where's all this money coming from for the safety of the athletes, the fans, and the coaches? Where's that money coming from?
We'll put in practice.
Right.
Will they practice the 6 feet apart? How do you do that in practice? Will they have masks on under their helmet? Some might be saying, "Oh, you're being facetious."
No.
But they're gonna test. That's what you hear. They're gonna test them multiple times. But what happens if somebody gets sick?
Right.
Gets exposed. Then you got to find out.
Too many unknowns.
Yeah. And speaking of unknowns, a listener says the transfer portal effect date on APR won't kick in until 2 years from now, but I predict by that time the NCAA will account for the new data. And he also says, ask coach if they ruled on the one-time transfer rule at the recent NCAA meeting. I didn't see any info on it.
No, I didn't either. And Carlos, I got a conference call on the 27th next Wednesday. Next Wednesday at 1, I have a conference call on the NC2A Ethics Committee, and that'll be on there. That's on the agenda. So I know more about that next Saturday.
Yeah,
because we'll be discussing it Wednesday.
Yeah, because I was asked, like Duke University, that was the example to use, a lot of one and dones.
Mm-hmm.
How does that affect Duke's APR?
No, it does not, because here's the thing. The kids at Duke, if you're eligible to return, you don't lose the retention point, and they've already added that piece. That piece was in a long time ago, where if you get a professional contract, whether it's overseas or the NBA, you don't lose a retention point. Now, that was in when I was still coaching.
Okay.
Yeah. As long as that kid, I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I say, and that's what the big boys do to avoid these penalties. They work out deals with some of these overseas teams, and all they have to do is be on that roster for 1 day when that roster is printed. And they work out some backdoor deals. But see, we get Johnny come lately to the game, and we the ones that get hit the hardest in the mouth.
Right. Or if he doesn't like something at your school and he transfers, then you end up losing that point. And see, it's not based on 1 year now. APR is a combination of 4 years. Mm-hmm. So in 4 years, you got to keep a certain percentage. When they first came out with it, it was 900. Then they raised it to 930. And fellas, I'm telling you now, it's tough. It's tough. It's tough.
Raise it again.
Right, and it's gonna hurt us. It will hurt us because we're the ones. You got to understand this now. Some of those schools, they're spending more on their academic enhancement departments than we have budgeted. Mm-hmm. So there's a big difference. Yeah, but we under the same. We have to abide by the same rules when it comes to eligibility, but look at the disparity in the money, the resources available. So it's tough, man, when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's almost like the saying, you got to beat them. You got to beat the system with the rules they put forth.
Right, and you got to beat them at their own game.
Find a way to overcome it. Overcome it. Yep. But some of our schools have done it.
Right, they're doing a great job with it. They're doing a great job with it. But I just don't like it when the public, who some of the public, they don't know everything that's involved in the APR, and when they see their institution getting on get on probation, they think the worst. When you got to look at, they have been doing an outstanding job, and a couple of things could happen. You can have a coaching change that could affect your APR. Any little thing like that could affect that APR, and the public doesn't really see that. They just see the final results. Oh, we ineligible. So it's tough.
I'm sorry, but Coach, isn't that kind of like a double-edged sword? Because we jump through these next levels, D1, for the quote-unquote money. And in order for us to get the money, we got to go through these rules and procedures. That's part of being part of the process. But as soon as we start figuring it out, they start adding layers. You said it started at 900, then it went to 910, 920, 930. Now they're talking about going to 950. They're giving out bonus monies now because of APR retentions and good gleaming reports. So it's really, isn't this a self-inflicting wound that we've brought to ourselves to want to be a part of something?
That's absolutely true. Because in order to make money, you got to spend money, and that's the part that I think we're missing on as our HBCUs, because that was not our mission in the beginning. It was never our mission for all of us to be in Division I. We were just supposed to be we were supposed to give opportunities to people of color who in the past have not had that opportunity. It was never meant for us to be on the highest level when it comes to athletics. And that's what you have to think about, and that's part of the reason why we don't spend as much money on athletics or put much money into athletics as our other people in the FBS. And that's a fact.
And with that being said, Coach, Michael, a listener, appreciate him listening, says, ask Coach, is it time for the HBCUs to leave the NCAA?
Well, I was one of the people that said that years ago. I said that the MEAC, the SWAC, CIAA, SIAC should form their own league and just play, and then we have our own set of rules. Pull away from the NC2A. Go back to like it used to be. All the HBCUs used to be NAIA.
Right.
Yeah, go back to something like that. Their rules and regulations were different. But the honest opinion now, there's no way some of these presidents are going to allow their institutions to pull away from the NC2A. Because right now, everybody's looking at being on television and all the other things that are afforded by being Division I. So it's going to be a tough pull. They're not going to do that. They should even consider dropping it to Division II, but they're not going to do that.
Well, I had a colleague did a study on that, and that's what they suggested.
Right, and to be honest, you would,
but to your point,
and do better.
Some presidents would say, call you into the office late in the afternoon. Do you love working there? Do you like working there?
Yep.
Okay, well, if you don't stop that foolish talk, you won't be here.
Right. Well, let me tell you something now. Real talk. When Alabama A&M made the decision to move from Division II to Division I was the coach that stood up and said no. Until I got one of those evening phone calls. Mine was to say, you need to be in my office in the morning.
Yeah.
And then they told me that, hey, Coach, it doesn't look good for you to be opposing this move publicly. It does not look good. You are our guy. But we don't need you publicly opposing this move. They had to bring me in. And then I told them, I said, you want to know why I'm opposing it? Football is going to play on the FCS level. We have to play Division I. We don't have the Division I money. That's why I'm against it. So mine was financially. I knew we could not afford to be on that level.
And I remember, to your point, I remember someone asking me the thought of, and now don't laugh, Coach, equivalent to FCS in basketball. But then another person said, well, no, you either play 1 or Division 2.
Right. That's it.
But, yeah.
That's it, Carlos. There's no FCS in basketball.
Nope. And he was. This person was asking me what were my thoughts. What was the thought of having something like that? I said it probably won't happen.
Correct.
All of this is interesting, but success rate among HBCUs as far as their APR reports. And I think I said now, our number one, bad news always sells first when you turn on the news. It's never Mr. Johnny took his extra $5,000 and fed the homeless.
Right.
You'll get that story at the back end, maybe 30 seconds. But bad news always to the forefront.
But Carlos, one of the things that you did see in that report, you could see the progress that the HBCUs have made. There's been a lot of progress now when it comes to APR. But look at it this way: when we're finally figured out how to maintain this 930, now they talk about moving it to 950.
Yeah.
So see, now you got to start all over again.
It's an ongoing struggle.
Yep.
I'd say the struggle is real. We should say that in the movement. And to this day, the struggle is always real.
Right. And then you see the bonuses that the coaches are going. I don't know if you all have seen this, but in the state of Alabama, like Malzone, he got $75,000 bonus for his team, his football team, passing, having a nice score.
Oh,
really? See, there's money to be made. And I told you last week, we had a president that took my academic clause out of my contract because they felt like the academics should have been a part of it anyway without me getting a bonus. So see, you got different mentalities by different presidents as to how you do this academic piece. Well, I can't tell. The best I could do for an athlete is to help tutor them, but I always thought that if I'm showing the university and everybody else that I'm here, I'm thinking about the kid's future by helping him to graduate, I felt like I should be compensated on the side for that. It was a bonus piece. It wasn't something that you get automatic. You still got to put the work in to get it done.
And speaking of the work getting done, The Last Dance, as we switch subject, The Last Dance is over with.
Yep.
The documentary. The last 2 episodes, what stood out to Coach Pettaway?
Well, the same thing that started with number one, that Michael was born with a drive that you normally don't see in everybody. He was driven to succeed, even though sometimes his drive may have stepped on others' toes or feet. He still went on. In other words, if you want to be a part of this, you better come on. Ain't no stragglers. You gotta be on. You got to buy all in, and he did it by example. He doing that whole thing, unless they didn't show it. He was not out partying. He wasn't doing anything. The only thing negative to me that came out, they smoked too many doggone cigars for me.
Oh.
But other than that, he lived it.
Mm-hmm.
He took care of his body, and that drive allowed him, just like with Kobe, just like with some of the others, they took care of their bodies first, and they put the work in.
Yeah, some would say the it factor, but I wouldn't say the it factor. It was just his mentality.
Right.
He was physically gifted, but he worked his butt off. That's a deadly combination when you're talented plus your work ethic is second to none. Now, with that being said, I watch all of the analysis by the pundits, and we know Horace Grant has a problem with the documentary.
Right.
You know, over a period of time, we knew about that. But let me specifically ask you about Scottie Pippen. They said Scottie, I've read he has a problem with had a problem with the documentary. Did we find out something about Scottie Pippen that we didn't know?
No, I just think what Scottie is concerned with is that they showed too many of the areas that he may not have done well in. I think that's his biggest gripe. In other words, you know, the missed free throws, the refusal to go into the game, and stuff like that. I think Scottie's thing is they showed too many negatives on his behalf. But now this is what concerns me. At one point, they said that Michael sat down with Scottie and they went over what the thing was going to be about, and then Scottie agreed with it. And then once the program aired, they said that's when Scottie came up, but he changed. So I don't know who to believe or what to believe, but to me, it did not put Scottie in a bad light. I thought it showed that, yes, Scottie is one of the best all-around players of all time, because he was first known for his defense. Then he developed his offense. So this was a guy that is one of the top basketball players in the history of the sport. And I thought they did a pretty good job of showing his talent, showcasing his talent. I don't understand him having an issue. I don't understand that.
Yeah, well, I think him being underpaid, and I know you look at the time that they were playing in, but I thought him and Michael had the same agent, but I could be wrong on that. You know, his family situation, you know, when they showed his father and you know, his brother, and he had to help financially his family. Then I remember having surgery, decided not to have the surgery.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, outstanding player. And Michael stated that he wouldn't have won the championships without him.
Right. That's why I say I have a problem. I don't understand what the beef is, because I thought Michael gave him credit for the championships, and Michael having his success would not have happened without him, and I thought he relayed that.
Well, let's see. A listener has a perspective on it. He says, I think The Last Dance was designed to change MJ's image to the modern public. I never liked or respected MJ. Wow. I always was a Magic Johnson supporter on and off the court. Never liked or respect Michael Jordan.
That's tough. But everybody's entitled to their own opinion and their own feelings. So, you know, we just have to go with that. I think as a basketball player, he did some outstanding things on the court. Now, off the court, I thought his social stance during the height of his career, you know, that could have come into question. But, you know, who are we to question how a man's allegiance and what he feels in his heart when it comes to social issues? We can't. We were not there. We're not him. We can't. To me, we should not judge how or what he did socially.
And I think I know recently in the city of Charlotte, he's done something, and what he didn't do socially back in the day, and he can't get that back.
Right, that's true.
He can't get that back, but now going forward, and in this time, he can do something now. You know,
right, and I think he has. I think, like you said, he is doing things now. With his money, I think he just donated $5 million to a cause, this kind of thing. So back when he played, people tried to compare him to, they were saying, well, he didn't do enough because Jim Brown did this, Muhammad Ali did this and all that. I really have a issue with people trying to judge this man, his ideology, during a time that we probably could have made would have made the same mistakes. No, you never know what he was up against.
Yeah, and I think his passion and dream was to be the best
basketball player. That's what he told you. Yep.
And then try to lead that organization to the promised land. But it's interesting. It's interesting. The Last Dance. I'm sure to win multiple awards, journalistic awards. Last but not least, Coach, and we still deal with unknowns, uncertainties, would you, if college athletics happens in the fall, albeit on an abbreviated situation, on a pandemic situation, are you comfortable enough, and if they allow fans, would you be comfortable enough, or are you comfortable enough to go into the facility?
I don't. Right now, to today, May 23rd. No, I'm not. I think it would take more time. That's just like, okay, I bring him home to you. I've got grandkids, 5 and 3, right?
Yeah.
They're now saying that their daycares can open up. Well, that daycare can open up, but they won't be there. Because I don't feel that, to me, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable with them being there right now. And so me as a person, I wouldn't want to go into a large gathering because I have to think about more than just me. I don't want to go to a large gathering and then bring something back to my grandkids. I would. You all would never hear from me again if that happened, because I would be feeling so bad. So I think you err on the side of caution. You don't run out there. And these athletic directors, they don't have a lot of weight on their shoulders, man, because the people that are making these decisions to bring these kids back, that's tough, man. And I wouldn't want to be in their shoes, because all it takes is for one athlete, just one now, to get messed up, and this whole thing is just going to blow. I know they're looking at. Bottom line is they're looking at the bottom line. They're looking at money. They're going money over safety, and I'm not sure that's the right way to go. And I know that, and it's easy for us to sit on air and talk about this, but they're looking at losses of billions and millions, and then when you combine them, it's billions. When you talk about these FBS schools, but for our level, our presidents and our ADs, we need to really look at this. Just because they say it's safe to come back, is it really safe for us on our level to be talking about bringing these kids back? And then if I was a parent, I might have an issue with letting my child go back to college. Depending on where they're going to school, I would have a problem with it because of what I said earlier. Will they have the financial resources to protect my child with the sanitation, the distancing, and all of that? That would be my issue.
Yeah. Well said. I couldn't say anything else other than say enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Be safe. You and your family. And as always, we appreciate the time. We'll talk again.
Yes, sir. Everybody be safe and be blessed. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, we need to be blessed. Better than blessed. On that note, I'm going to take a time out. During this break, I'm going to get me a little bit of water. Then when I come back, we'll visit with Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. I'll try to get in some comments as far as the messages that you're sending me. And then also, I posted an article, and that's on the Coles Brown Show Facebook page. I always try to just put the information out there, and you can have a discussion on it one way or the other. But I'm going to pull that article up, and I'm going to ask Charles Edmond his opinion on the article. It basically talks about it'll bring home the billions that will be lost if the Power Five doesn't get a chance to play football. And literally, that's what it's all about. It's about profits. And once again, ask yourself the question, would you send your child, and we say child, I know some of them could be 21, 22, but if they're going to college, they're on the athletic scholarship. Would you be safe with that? A lot of unknowns. But one thing that is known is if you got a compromised immune system and you're a certain group, and every day we're seeing now, even outside that group, there are people just dying. How in good conscience could you celebrate the Power Five, who most of the players, well, a good percentage of the players, come from a group, no matter how young they are, that this disease is hitting, this virus is hitting more so than others. Sacrificial lambs. That's basically what it comes down to. Coach Pettaway said, the people who have a seat at the table, ADs and presidents of HBCUs, you got a big decision. A big decision. And the decision you make, you have to live with it. You're listening to the Coles Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network.
It's the Open Mic Tele-Network line. Dial 720-721-1558, and instantly at your fingertips, you'll have the latest local news, weather, and sports. Need a word of encouragement? Dial 720-721-1558. The Open Mic Tele-Network line features weekly prayer, verse of the week, and local ministries at your fingertips. Everything you need on demand. Dial 720-721-1558. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No internet? No problem. No Wi-Fi? No problem. No app? No problem. All you need to do is dial 720-721-1558 to listen now.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine. Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I present to you three of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth, Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you one chromosome at a time. among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network joins me now. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. How you doing, man?
I'm hanging in there. This pandemic, this life that we're living, you got to make adjustments. And that's what I try to do on a daily basis. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, just trying to do the same, trying to stay safe, wearing a mask all the time when I'm not at my other little gig, and even when I'm out and about wearing a mask, and they tell you to do that. I hadn't been doing it, but I'm doing it now. And Carlos, I have to give you some props because your feeling last week, you kind of scared me a little bit. They're talking about whether or not you would feel safe going into a stadium, and the way you sounded, what you said, and how you said it really worried me, and I'm concerned, obviously, for good reason. But then talking to some of my other friends that I know around town that go to SEC schools and they're avid SEC supporters financially and otherwise, I asked them the same question you asked me. Are you ready to go into whatever stadium? We're not going to name the school, but they're SEC supporters and they financially support. They go to games, and they said absolutely not. And so your feeling last Saturday, I think a lot of folks are feeling the same way. Even a few SWAC fans that I've talked to the last couple of days, they're like, nah, not at this time, no. So I think, of course they could change their mind at any moment, but right now, 3 months out for the start of the season, people are a little leery right now. So I might be a little scared, but this is just where we are right now until we get some more answers of vaccine or whatever these plans are that these schools are rolling out in terms of trying to spread people out. I think Roman Banks has done a nice job in explaining what he knows at this point, and I'm sure our other ADs will be rolling out some stuff as we roll along. Alcorn and all the schools in Mississippi will have students on campus in the fall. Our IHL governing board ruled that the other day. So students will be on campus. How that will look, of course, the schools are still trying to figure that out. But there will be kids on our campus in the fall. And how will that look like in terms of Alcorn football games? We're figuring that out as well. So a lot of moving pieces at this point with 3 months left until we kick the season off, somewhere thereabouts.
Yeah, and I visited with Mrs. Williams, Jennifer Lynn Williams, the director of Alabama State, in hour number one, and she was just quite honest. It's a lot of unknowns. Their meetings they have change. It could change hourly. We'll say daily. She used the word flexibility. Monday meetings that they have by Zoom, that's boy, their stock's probably going up soon. I've actually experimented with that on some meetings, and not bad. But you have to be flexible. And she said it's a lot of unknowns. There still is a legal issue that has to be answered, a liability issue. And let me just bring this up to you guys right now. A listener, we'll just say Jack, he basically said, let me pull it up. Yeah, let's get stuck here. Live radio. Let's see. He says there's a difference between would you send your kid into that college athletic environment, and do you have the legal power to stop a kid, student athlete on scholarship, from going into that environment of their own. There is a difference between what you send your kid into that college athletic environment, and do you have the legal power to stop a kid, student athlete on scholarship, from going into that environment? And then he brought up the example about Chris Jackson. And when he went to LSU, his mother refused to sign the letter of intent. I believe that's what he was saying. He was 17. He waited over the summer when he turned 18, and he enrolled at LSU. His mother wanted him to go to Mississippi State. And I guess it's reference to, Charles, what I said before we took the break. Would you be comfortable if you were a parent and you had a young son or a young daughter? She's 17, let's say 18. Could you, in good conscience, send her or him off to college, and if they're an athlete and they got a scholarship, would it make you just say, wait a minute, got to look at this thing critically? How would you address that?
If I were a parent, I would want to see or hear or read some guidance first. And I think all these schools are going to probably do that throughout the summer. And once I see the guidance and once I see and hear what the president and the provost has to say in terms of spreading out folks' classroom sizes reduced, those sort of things, and then I would go from there and feel comfortable with that. And if I feel comfortable with that, yes, I would. As far as the athletic liability, I have heard talk shows about this, and just hearing different experts about it. Based on what I've been hearing about it, is that I think.
Charles, can I get you to talk up a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
I think coaches and athletic directors are being very patient about that. I think there's a basic understanding that there's going to be some reluctance from kids and or parents. And I don't think that schools are going to hold it over a kid's head if there's some reluctance for them if they decide to or hesitate to come back. I think that's kind of on a written rule there. I think it's kind of understood that there's going to be some reluctance. So I think that's kind of built in. I mean, some things go without saying. And I don't think, I don't know, I'm not in these different programs, but I don't think that one coach or one AD is going to hold a kid accountable for that if they feel uncomfortable about coming back at whatever time because of what's going on. So to answer your question, I would have to see some guidance from our school, whatever school that is. And I'm sure we're going to get that this summer, both on the athletic front, in terms of how we spread people out at our stadiums and arenas. And I think we'll get some guidance from our academic folks too this summer. Now that we know that there will be kids, at least in Mississippi, there are kids that will be on campus this fall. That came across a couple of days ago. So we know kids will be on campus if they choose to stay on campus. Some, and of course I read, on social media, some kids say they will be there with bells on campus. Some say, well, I'm going to wait till the vaccine, maybe in the spring, I'll take a look at it. So you have to give those kids that flexibility and that respect, and we'll just see how it goes. But I would like to see some guidance, hear from our president, hear from our provost, hear from our athletic director and coaches how they're going to make this work. Because the NCAA just approved football players coming on campus starting in June. They're going to be the only ones there, and that's another piece. I think that's probably the reason why they approved it, because they're the only show on campus, in June. Most schools are doing online teaching in the summer. So I guess it's kind of an experiment to see if you spread your football players out, how will that look? We'll see how it goes as far as testing and all that. So, but to answer your question, I have to hear some guidance from my academic leaders at whatever school. If it's Alcorn, for example, I know Dr. Nave and AD Derek Horn will probably do some stuff out sometime during the course of the summer. And we'll see how that looks.
Back to the Power 5 schools, because you can't look at HBCUs and smaller resource schools. Maybe in some cases, but let's not kid ourselves. It's all about the profits. It's all about the money. I get text messages every day, literally. Too big to fail. That would be the title of it. $4 billion. But again, and my colleague just sent me something that, boy, it hits home for me. Before this show is out, I'm gonna try to just read that text message. But it's like some of what all of you are saying. The bottom line is you need to make sure that you're safe. And if you have kids at home, when you go out and you return, you have to think of more than just yourself. If you have a wife at home, you got to think about your wife. You know, we're all going to meet that fate one day, but I don't have to rush it. And I don't have to put myself in a position where I'm going to speed it up. But it's going to be interesting. As Ms. Williams said, there's a lot of uncertainties still. Mm-hmm.
The question that you asked is, would you feel safe? And I believe the original question is, if you have a 17-year-old, do you have the legal authority, or 18-year-old legal authority? And there are 4 different layers. Being that I'm a father of 4 children, 33, she's deceased, 24, 21, and 18. Legally and technically, they're all grown and they make up their own minds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the legal part of it. The real part of it is that if you're even 31, and if you're living under my roof and you're dependent on me for anything, how grown are you? How grown are you? Okay, so if an 18-year-old who has legally the right to make up his own mind to make grown decisions, then he got to live with the grown consequences. And if that be the case, go right ahead, son. Go right ahead, daughter. You have to make that decision because that is your life. Okay, you've signed a contract to go to a particular program, to be a part of their athletic program, to get you an education. Now, technically speaking, once again, that's your choice. But I have that right to protect myself, just like you have that right to protect yourself. And if you decide to do that, you have to ask those institutions that would be dangling the carrot, come out, who's going to be the one to take care of their kid if their kid gets sick, or when they come back and they contaminate one of those coaches. They can test them all day. And see, the problem is not testing. The problem is there is no known cure. There's no known vaccine. So, you know, we talk about the Power 5 schools. Texas A&M College Station is a ghost town right now. It's an absolute ghost town. You could throw a rock and hit absolutely nothing but air. They are bleeding, just like we're all bleeding. And the only reason they're talking about, you know, June 1st, it sounds good. It sounds great. But you could say June 1st, you could say May 1st. They keep pushing the date back. They're being optimistic because they're trying to keep that money contract alive through these television deals. This is all about what can we do to salvage these TV deals. We, and I said it in hour number 1, we cannot afford to try to keep up with the Joneses. It costs automatically $25,000 to $35,000 just for one game on a home campus. Okay, then you add the additional sanitation part that Coach Pettaway brought up. You're going to automatically double that. So you're telling me that we as FCS programs got $60,000 to $100,000 per game to try to keep up with somebody, and we barely have 4,000 or 5,000 people coming through the gates? The money don't add up. You'll lose more money than you would make money for the sake of trying to keep up and say we had football. Once again, that's a choice that every individual has to make. and every individual has to deal with the consequences of the choices that they make. As for me and my house, I'm not going. All of my children, if they want to go, they can go. God bless them, Godspeed. But guess what? You can't come back in my house and contaminate me, because I don't know where you've been, who you've been social distance from. Have you been keeping the proper sanitation recommendations? I don't know that, but I know where I've been. And that's not being a harsh parent. That's being a real parent. You cannot.
Yeah, you have to do the right thing.
Yeah, sooner or later, you got to realize that everybody has to make their own decisions. And if you're comfortable with that decision, then Godspeed to you. I'm comfortable with my decision. And I've got my boundaries, and they got their boundaries, and to may God be the glory on all of us.
Well, that's, to your
put
point.
the information out there, and for those who decide what course of action they're going to take. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, well, to your point, Dr. Prince, and look, I mean, for the first 30 days of this, it was more about the medicine than the money. But now, as we're getting into the summer, 3 months away from football, we don't know what the NFL is going to look like. We don't know what college football is going to look like. We don't know what the NBA is going to look like. It's now more about money than the medicine. And I was looking at ESPN last night. Of course, Major League Baseball hasn't even started. It's all about the money, and especially the TV money, I think, on the college football front. No broadcast, no revenue from the TV networks. So they're trying to, in my opinion, I think they're trying to, the Power Five and others, trying to figure out a way to get these games on TV, so at least you can get some of the TV revenue, because you know that you're probably going to lose at the gate if you're going to spread people out. So I think that's what it's about right now. The whole key about the testing and making sure these student athletes are tested, how many tests you're going to need. The NBA talks about this bubble that they're going to have around their teams. These schools are going to have it as well if you're going to bring kids on campus, if you can afford to do that and if you want to do that. So it is, unfortunately, it is just like you said, Carlos, brutally honest. The brutally honest reality is right now it's about these schools trying to get on television and get the TV revenue, because that's the biggest revenue source they're going to have, because their stadiums are going to be limited if you're going to spread people out. And I think that's the whole key right now. Whether or not a kid decides to go back if they're not comfortable with it, I think schools should respect that. And, I'm hoping that we have both. I think that schools have the option of offering it online if kids want to do that and not come on campus, or the ones that do, you limit the amount of dorm rooms that you have to kind of spread people out there too. I'm kind of hearing that being tossed around. So there's still a lot of moving pieces in this thing. But I think at the end of the day, the revenue piece is driving all this, whether athletics, whether within the institutions, to try to generate as much revenue as they can, because state dollars are drying up because the states are struggling as the economy is shut down in the various states, Louisiana and others. So there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of dominoes that are trying to fall, that some are falling, some are getting ready to, and we just got to figure out a way to keep it propped up.
Yeah, and don't forget, there are almost 40 million people without income, furloughed, don't have a job, waiting on unemployment. Some of those people come to games, even on our level. There's going to be impact on that if they're able to get into the stands. I've had people tell me, well, hey, maybe they'll do a YouTube channel and they'll charge people to watch an athletic event on campus without fans. Okay. Again, you can do that. That's your choice. You have a choice in life to do a lot of things. It's on you. But you've never seen this before. 30 years from now, we're here, we can talk about what happened. What happened during that pandemic, COVID-19? This is what athletics did. This is what the NFL did. This is what people did who lost their income during this time. I think Ms. Williams put it best. We've heard Dr. Prince talked about it. Coach Pettaway. This is just uncharted territory. And reality is about to hit. It's easy to say, oh, I miss sports so much. Oh, I got to have it. I've got to be in attendance. I really do. I miss, if I can't be in attendance, at least watch it on TV. I understand, but you have choices.
And I think the other part of it, Carlos, too, is if there's a second outbreak at games, and I think you're kind of seeing this. I mean, you hate to hear the word kick the can down the road or pass the buck. If heaven forbids you have a second outbreak in these facilities and stadiums, you talk about the liability. Who's going to take the weight of that brunt? Is it the presidents? Is it the ADs? Is it the NCAA? Is it the commissioners? So I think everybody is trying to do what they can to, police themselves and at the same time protect themselves. Because if something does go astray, and you talk about the liability of it, who ultimately is responsible? Is it me? Am I responsible because of the fact that I made the choice to go to the game? Is it at school? Is it the conference? Is it the NCAA? Who ultimately is going to bear the weight? Because if there's outbreaks and people get sick and people pass away and there are lawsuits, there's not a school on this planet that can afford the financial liability that comes with that. Because you're going to be paying out all kinds of settlements, and then the hit that you take in the court of public opinion will hurt you as well. So I think there's this tricky balance in which, don't put it on me, or don't put it on me, or don't put it on me. I think everyone is trying to, I say get it off their plate, but trying to protect themselves more so. Because if somebody gets sick or somebody passes, there's going to be some legal consequences. The question is, who's ultimately at fault? And I think that's the other question that will probably, come out. You said you're going to have a legal person on your show, to kind of go into that. Whose fault ultimately is it? Is it my fault because I came to the game knowing that this could happen?
Charles, you're going in and out again.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. So ultimately, who's legally responsible if something goes wrong? I mean, we hope it doesn't, but let's just be, like you say, brutally honest. I mean, the health experts say there could be a second wave, and you have to protect yourself because of that. And you're talking about the busiest time of the year with college football, NFL. Hey, who gets sick if you get sick at a Houston Texans game? Who's responsible? The Texans, Bill O'Brien, the Houston Texans, the city of Houston? Or are you responsible knowing that this is the risk that you take? I mean, so I think those questions are lingering out there as well, and I think everyone's trying to protect themselves.
And that's exactly what the NCAA did. That's exactly
I'm responsible for keeping my behind in the house or keeping myself out of positions that I know. Look, seriously, I have a compromised immune system. Why in the heck? And I wanted to say something else.
Go ahead, man. Say what you
Why in the heck did I put myself in that high category of and then once again, you come home and give it to your wife or your kids. And then a lot of times you don't show any symptoms, but you're a carrier. You know what? Y'all judge yourselves accordingly. Y'all be safe. And you go right ahead. I love sports like the next person. Love attending them, but will not be attending. I said that last week. I'm not doing it. Nope. I would like to pass away with the nephews and the nieces around the bed saying, Uncle, don't cry for me. I weep for y'all because you got to go through and continue to live.
Well, I'll say this for me because broadcasting and being in the press box and being amongst fans is my job. I have to do what I can to protect myself as best as I can with a mask and all the sanitation. And I think that's the best that we can do. I mean, because it is my job, I have to be a part of it. just pray and just do the best that you can. I mean, I think for everybody, I think that's all we can do.
On that note, you still be safe. You be safe, Charles. We'll talk with you next week. Want to thank Jennifer Lynn Williams, Coach Pettaway, Charles Edmond, and Dr. Michael Prince. You heard the message. It's about choices and your decisions. Be safe. Don't be a sacrificial lamb for nobody. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your weekend. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, as always, peace and definitely God bless.